Hello and welcome to the Storytelling for the Soul podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Kanata, and this is the place we talk about all things expressive writing and other creative techniques, all with a little bit of Buffy the Vampire Slayer thrown in. Buckle up and enjoy. Welcome back to another episode. I hope you are well whenever you are listening to this. Today we are talking about writing from the body, journaling to complement healing. It has been a busy week. I was speaking alongside 40 other speakers at the Midlife Madness Summit. That went really well. I did actually record a training called Improve Your Life with 10 Minutes of Writing Daily, and then in brackets or journaling. I use writing and journaling fairly interchangeably. Whatever suits you, I am more than comfortable with. I'm far more intent on actually convincing you to give writing or journaling a go than on language. But yes, I spoke at the Midlife Madness Summit. I should be able to make that training available to anyone who wants it within the next week or so. I'm also recording a Q&A tomorrow morning, so 15th of March 2025 with the organizer, which I will also share with everyone. But let's get stuck into today's episode. Here's the thing. I don't teach standard journaling. I know very well that if you punch in journal prompts into Google, you can find a myriad of writing prompts that sure will get you going. And I do think writing prompts are a great starting point. Now, I recorded a podcast episode a while back, actually when I first started the podcast, about my love-hate relationship with writing prompts. I think they are fantastic for getting you started and on days when the writing just isn't flowing. But in my view, they're a bit like learning to ride a bike. At first, the training wheels when you're learning to ride a bike or your child is learning to ride a bike are super helpful. You need them because without the stability of the training wheels, perhaps you might fall over, perhaps you might not want to get on the bike. But at a certain point, if you never take the training wheels off, you won't learn how to ride the bike without the training wheels. Writing is exactly the same. So initially, I am all for using journal prompts. I use them in my business, in my 3-month program, in my individual sessions. I have a subscription. I am all for them. However, I do encourage you to try seeing what happens if you don't have a writing prompt and see if the writing flows, particularly after you've been writing for, say, 3 weeks solidly. So to today's topic, like I said, I don't teach standard journaling or writing. Now, if you Google expressive writing, you are going to find a bunch of science and research as to the benefits of writing. I mention this just so you know that what I am talking about here is not hokum or not something that Sarah has simply made up, so it must be so. No, there's actually scientific backed research that expressive writing is beneficial in a myriad of ways. So if you're someone who likes the science, I encourage you to check out that research. You can readily find it available, and reading it properly will be far better than me trying to paraphrase the findings. But it's not just research. I have seen writing or journaling work not only with myself in terms of being a well-being tool and to complement healing as a holistic lifestyle. For myself personally, I've been writing since I was about 12 years old. When I hit 30, everything changed. I don't know what it was about hitting 30, but suddenly I couldn't simply run away from everything in my past that I had no desire to explore, look into, and accept. My body started breaking down. I started having a heap of gut issues, and I accepted I needed to go backwards in the past to move forwards. And it turned out that I basically had a bunch of trauma stored in my body. Now, I am an embodied processing practitioner. So embodied processing is a body-based approach to working with trauma. So I decided to engage in that training post 30 after doing a bunch of research and opening my eyes to the fact that, hey, maybe I've got all these unresolved emotions and challenges from my past that are actually impacting on my body and creating these physical sensations. I will note that I did have several medical tests to investigate exactly what was going on at the time, and I encourage every single person out there listening to get the required medical tests that you need. This work is certainly not a replacement for doing those medical tests and also working with the relevant health professionals. I firmly believe, and I've seen it with both myself and several clients, too many people to be a coincidence that writing and journaling in the way that I teach can complement healing. Now, when I refer to healing, what I mean is returning to our whole selves. So I believe that what happens is we enter into this world as a beautiful baby, fully expressing ourselves. As we grow, as we take on our environment, as we take on social norms, I believe we stop expressing ourselves fully because we have to, both for survival and to just fit in. Because let's face it, as humans, we want to belong. We're social creatures. Our survival depends on belonging. And I think slowly over time, as you chip away and wear your mask often enough and don't express yourself often enough, you start losing bits and pieces of yourself, like tiny little crumbs falling off your body as you go. And as you mature and as you age, that starts building up. And then at a certain point, perhaps you're like me, where you start experiencing a bunch of physical symptoms, or maybe you're feeling like something just isn't quite right in your life. You're not satisfied. You can't point to something specifically that is wrong, but you know deep down you don't feel fulfilled. If anything, you feel like you're spread very thinly. Perhaps I tend to work with women 35 plus who have lots on their plate that they're juggling, from kids, could be teenagers, could be younger, to aging parents. Often they've got a job or a career, or maybe they're juggling business, or they have other aspirations in life. It could be a myriad of things. But slowly over time, we start losing ourselves. So to me, healing is not so much about adding anything into our lives or building on anything. In many cases, it's removing things and going back to our true selves, really. That's it in a nutshell. And I see this work similar to an onion, where there are layers and layers and layers. It's up to you how many layers you want to continue peeling back, but eventually most people hit a point where they feel satisfied with where they're at in life, and it's just about maintaining the lifestyle. Now, that's an important point. This is a lifestyle. You are not going, well, you can't expect to journal for once a week, say 15 minutes, or if you work with me, come to fortnightly sessions, work with me for 45 minutes fortnightly and have an entire life transformation. That's not quite how it works. You have to treat this as a lifestyle, and that lifestyle looks different to every single person out there. But basically, it all hinges on you prioritizing yourself and having enough belief in your worth to know that you are worth carving out time for yourself. Now, the way that I'm teaching, as I said, writing from the body. So what we're not doing is we're not doing a massive brain dump. Sure, I think that this can be helpful. Say you wake up at 3 a.m., happens to the best of us, and your mind is racing. Perhaps just jotting down everything on your mind can help you to get back to sleep. That's great. It's not a massive brain dump. It's not something where you're dissociated from the rest of your body. What I mean by that is you're not just using your mind. We are being very aware of what's happening in your body as you are writing. Now, for so many people, they actually have no awareness about what's happening in their physical body until, like me, it starts breaking down and screaming at them to the point where you actually cannot ignore your body any longer. It's screaming at you. Life is painful physically. You are forced to stop and take a look. Obviously, we want to avoid getting to that point because prevention is always best. Anyhow, I work with a lot of people where we start with the real bare basics. So as they're writing, if they can't feel anything, that is okay. Everything you're feeling in any session you do with me or as you are writing for yourself is 100% okay, but we start slowly incorporating feeling into your body. Now, most people can at least feel the heaviness of the feet on their floor. So that's a good starting point if you are struggling and you simply cannot feel anything at all. But as you're writing, so many things could be happening for you. And the sensations, the feelings, I'm not saying stop your thoughts here. There's no way that we can stop our thoughts. It's impossible. What I'm saying is we're not only focusing on our thoughts. We are being mindful of what else is happening in our body. So, some common things as people are writing, sometimes they get butterflies in their tummy. Those butterflies could signal anxiety or excitement. Sometimes they get strange pins and needles all over their body, a tingling. Maybe they're experiencing an accelerated heart rate as they're going because whatever they're writing is making them nervous or uncomfortable. Maybe they're starting to sweat. Maybe they're feeling breathlessness. There are so many things that people can be feeling as they are writing, but that is the core of this work. Now, some pointers. If you have never written before in your life, please do not start by exploring the most traumatic experience of your life. That is not a good starting point. All that is going to do is likely tip your nervous system into an overwhelmed state, which we don't want to do because that's only going to traumatize you. What we do want to do is, before we even start writing, is work on building something called a resource. Now, a resource is an embodied processing term, and it essentially means, in its simplest form, the opposite of overwhelm. It can be anything, internal or external to you, a vehicle to help you to get to that place of the opposite of overwhelm. Now, you can also see it as a way to get to safety, a way to get to other words like groundedness, connectedness, comfort. Language can be tricky because for some people, they have no memory of feeling safe. So if I say that to them, they don't know what I'm talking about. So you really have to have some self-awareness about what connects with you. But if no words come to mind, just think of the opposite of overwhelmed. And that's what you're going for with a resource. Now, how do you get there? First of all, this is a practice, and your resource will get stronger over time. It is something that you can use not only when you are writing and you're feeling triggered, but it's also something you can use in your daily life as life happens. Say you're feeling a bit anxious about having to give a speech or having a difficult conversation, you can use your resource at any point in time. And typically, you can do so without anyone being aware of what's going on. So, what are some examples of a resource? My resource is sitting on the couch with BB the dog, short for brown bear. I can, after many years of practice, take myself to that black couch It was a leather couch. It was sticky. I can just take myself there instantly. Feeling BB's fluffy hair as she rests her head on me. Seeing her belly rise and fall, feeling it. Feeling her breath as she breathes in and out on my skin. That all has the capacity to take my overwhelm from a 10, and it doesn't get rid of it completely. And that's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get to a place where we are building capacity and we can sit with the uncomfortable sensations so that we can process them. Because trauma has to be processed in the body because it occurs in the body. Now, some other examples. So obviously, pets of any kinds, a memory, a favorite meal, a song, and if you are super struggling to find or think of anything, you can make something up completely. It doesn't matter what it is. All that matters is the feeling of helping you to get or lower that feeling of overwhelm, because we don't want to traumatize you in any work that we do. So, as you are writing, if at any point in time you become aware that you're tipping into a state of overwhelm, you're not pushing through, you're stopping and you're coming back to your resource. So everything I've said here is a crash course guide basically to what I teach. Now, for some journal prompts to get you going, here are some that I use all the time. So number 1, what today has energized me? Number 2, what today has drained me? And you can come back and do these on a weekly basis as well and reflect on a weekly basis in terms of what you're jotting down. And then if you want to go a step further, look at what you've written and ask yourself, what out of what I've written is within my power to change? Now, if it's nothing you can change, you're going to drop it. There's no point in looking into that. But often in our lives, there are things that we can definitely do to reduce the pressure and the stress on ourselves, even if we don't realize it because we're too busy simply going through the motions, being everything to everyone, until we reach the B word, burnout, which of course we don't want to get to. Anyhow, I'm going to leave it there. Trust me, if you can commit yourself to this work, it can take almost anything in your life and complement any existing services that you may be using, anything you might be already doing like meditation, yoga, strength training, gentle movement, doesn't matter what it is. And it can complement your situation and help you to move towards healing. Now, if you head over to my website, sarahkanata.com, Sarah is spelled S-A-R-A-H, and then my last name is C-A-N-N-A-T-A. You can find, firstly, a free training, and secondly, all the different ways that you can work with me. So you can have individual sessions, you can engage in my 3-month program. I only have one spot currently available for that as I'm recording on the 14th of March, or you can invest in my gentle, low-cost monthly journal prompts subscription. I'm going to leave it there. I hope you have some actionable takeaways from what I've spoken about today, and I'll talk with you next week.